Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're untangling a pretty wild story about how cutting-edge AI, looming tariffs out of Washington, and just everyday municipal waste are coming together to create a highly profitable, climate-positive commodity market. We're looking at a fascinating collision of recent headline news, shifting trade policies, tightening environmental regulations in Ontario, and the deployment of consumer-grade artificial intelligence are all combining to completely rewrite the economics of trash. Let's dive right in.
3.46 million tons. That is a massive number, right? Well, that is the exact amount of municipal solid waste, or MSW, exported from Ontario and shipped right across the U.S. border into Michigan landfills every single year. It establishes this high-stakes cross-border reliance that has honestly defined regional waste disposal for decades. But as we'll see, that corridor is currently under intense pressure from multiple directions, creating an incredible opportunity for some major technological disruption.
To understand how trash actually became a mispriced financial instrument, we're going to break this down into 5 parts: the blue box collapse, the Michigan waste corridor, shorting the landfill, the sentient bridge, and finally, the biocarbon payoff.
Starting off with Part 1, the blue box collapse.
Legislative dominoes are falling fast in Ontario right now, literally forcing commercial businesses to abandon traditional recycling and figure out their own private disposal solutions. The tightening regulatory pressure is intense. It all kicked off on January 1, 2026, when Ontario businesses lost their commercial blue box service, throwing commercial waste straight into the private sector exactly as local landfill space started becoming scarce. By April, a manifest as a service amendment paved the way for digital tracking. But think about what's coming further down the line. There's a looming clean wood landfill ban in 2029, and the ultimate cliff, total Ontario landfill exhaustion projected for 2034. This is driving commercial waste strictly away from mixed disposal and toward audit-grade diversion.
Moving on to Part 2, the Michigan waste corridor.
The sheer scale of this waste corridor is just staggering. Ontario trash accounts for over 14% of all the waste disposed of in Michigan landfills, nearly 15%. For years, routing waste across the Ambassador or Blue Water Bridge was simply the cheapest disposal option for Canadian businesses. But geopolitical winds are changing, and that massive slice of the pie represents a profound economic vulnerability for Ontario if that border ever tightens.
And that vulnerability is driving major policy. When Ontario's Premier Doug Ford fast-tracked the Dresden landfill expansion, the stated rationale was directly tied to headlines and concerns coming out of Washington, specifically protecting Ontario if Donald Trump closes the U.S. border to Canadian garbage. So looking at this impartially, political rhetoric translates instantly into economic anxiety. The Ontario government is quite literally carving out emergency landfill expansions to hedge against a closed border and shifting USMCA policies.
Those trade concerns are definitely materializing. On August 19, 2026, the U.S. applied heavy 50% duties to finished Canadian wood and paper under Section 338 tariff shifts. With these sweeping CUSMA and USMCA changes happening, ensuring cross-border waste compliance is no longer just a legal necessity for haulers, it is an absolute financial survival tactic. If you misclassify a load of scrap wood today, you might get hit with a crippling tariff.
All right, Part 3, shorting the landfill.
Enter a technology company called 905 Wood. They approach this not as a waste disposal problem, but as a financial spread just waiting to be captured. The crucial point here is the massive delta in government fees based purely on how waste is classified. Ontario imposes a crushing $60 per ton CRCL levy for mixed waste. But if you can cryptographically verify that a load is clean wood, that levy plummets to just $5 a ton. The arbitrage opportunity is massive.
That translates to exactly $1,053 in savings per 19.15-ton mothership trailer load. Over $1,000 instantly saved. When waste is successfully verified as clean rather than mixed, it immediately unlocks immense value for general contractors and haulers willing to adopt the technology to prove their waste is actually clean.
It totally flips the traditional business model on its head. Normal waste management is a boring cost center, right? You pay to dispose of your trash, and any residual value is completely lost to the landfill. But 905 Wood operates what they call a digital refinery workflow. By diverting clean streams at the gate and retaining their value, they are essentially taking a financial short position against the rising cost of landfilling as we approach that 2034 exhaustion cliff. As tipping fees go up, the value of not sending clean wood to the landfill goes up right alongside it.
Which brings us to Part 4, the sentient bridge.
So how on earth do you pull off this kind of regulatory arbitrage at scale without getting hammered by border tariffs or mixed waste levies? Well, 905 Wood does it by acting as a sentient bridge. Instead of massive, clunky industrial equipment, they are operationalizing a standard Google Pixel 10 Pro smartphone. Running a local light art AI stack, this setup instantly connects chaotic construction waste with high-purity biocarbon markets. They are utilizing edge AI right at the point of intake, literally at the dumpster itself, to make an immediate audit-grade decision on what is trash and what is a highly valuable tariff-exempt commodity.
The digital refinery application workflow tracks a piece of scrap wood through a really robust 6-layer architecture. From the initial request for quote and intake at the compliance gate, it moves seamlessly through logistics and regulatory API manifesting, all the way to realizing financial value, generating the UI and UX output PDF documentation for reporting, and finally, scientific validation for carbon credits. This ensures that every piece of chaotic waste is perfectly tracked from the initial pickup all the way to the trading desk. The tech stack securing Ontario's industrial leadership here relies entirely on everyday consumer hardware. We are talking about a standard Google Pixel 10 Pro running Android 16. It is absolutely incredible that a smartphone is out here defeating a billion-dollar waste crisis. Equipped with the LightRT AI stack and the Gemma 4 E2B model, the phone acts as the ultimate compliance officer. It classifies a bin load in under 500 milliseconds and uses the phone's Titan M2 hardware root of trust to create a hold-the-seal cryptographic audit record. The model literally proves to customs agents and environmental regulators that the wood is clean. And finally, Part 5, the biocarbon payoff.
The output documentation is where this all clicks together beautifully. The workflow generates flawless PDF features, everything from RPRA API manifests to a critical USMCA Shield 9-point certificate of origin. By cryptographically proving the load is clean wood, they can slide it perfectly through U.S. Customs under the tariff-exempt HS 3825.0 code. This directly protects businesses against the very border volatility and crippling Washington tariffs we discussed earlier.
But here is the real genius of the trade. The verified clean wood gets sent for pyrogenic biocarbon conversion. That process generates registered climate removal certificates that actually trade on the open market. This carbon dividend funds the entire operation, turning a single truckload into a book value of $2,721, or up to $7,660 of pure retained margin at spot high premiums.
To put that into perspective, when you scale that math to just 200 clean wood loads per week, a very standard fleet size for a mid-market operation, the spot high carbon dividend represents a massive, nearly $80 million annualized return. $79,660,000 to be exact. This definitively proves the absolute financial genius of shorting the landfill. The disposal fees simply pay for the infrastructure, the carbon dividend is the actual trade.
Which leaves us with this final thought. As we watch the 2034 Ontario landfill cliff rapidly approach, and as global tariffs continually shift the economics of cross-border trade, consider this. Is this sentient bridge simply a clever, localized loophole for the Ontario-Michigan waste corridor? Or have we just looked at the definitive AI-driven blueprint for the future of the entire global circular bioeconomy? Thank you for joining me on this explainer. I guarantee you will never look at a dumpster the same way again.